There was little doubt last week that Seitz had control of the race. His wins are becoming more frequent, and the points gap between he and his teammate is shrinking. Can Verity keep up his habit of following Greg Holman second? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Imola's multiple chicanes will provide their fair share of challenges today. To understand why, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, but most race fans know this place as simply Imola. This circuit in the northern part of Italy has seen some of the highest highs and lowest lows in motorsports history. The various tragedies that have marred the track left no choice but to alter it in the name of safety. While it originally featured mostly fast, sweeping corners, its modern 3-mile or 5-kilometer version is punctuated by tricky chicanes and incredibly technical turns. iRacing includes the Grand Prix layout and a moto version, which adds one more chicane to the front stretch. Tamburello is perhaps the most notorious of the corners for claiming the life of multi-time world champion Ayrton Senna when it was still a single breathtaking turn. Now the Triple Apex not only offers potential passing opportunities, but catches out drivers quite frequently. While heavy braking zones are everywhere, because few places allow the cars to get up to speed, overtaking is generally seen as an exercise in frustration. As if to almost counteract this quality, the track itself is situated in a gorgeous public park and sends the drivers through the beautifully calming Italian countryside. It also includes a fair bit of elevation change in which the track is split between the higher up back half and the lower first portion. It's no wonder that this place still proves popular with drivers and fans in spite of its difficulties in history. The Tifosi keep returning each and every time the sound of engines roar among the trees, and who can blame them? DJ, this is going to be an interesting one. I guess if we could compare it to an American track and the way I expect it to race, I'd almost wager maybe Mid-Ohio?
Yeah, that's about right, Joe. The elevation change is a little bit more European, let us say, here today. It's much more gradual, which will play into it. But I think Mid-Ohio is a good comparison, especially considering it's going to be very difficult to overtake around here. You know, that is one of the things that everybody talks about every time we go to Imola, is just that difficulty in getting the overtaking down. There are going to be some opportunities. That said, going down into Tamburello, down that long main straightaway, you can get some good drafts and you can see some moves there. We've seen some very aggressive moves also get done going down into Ravazza 1 and trying to get a good pull back onto that main straightaway. But really and truly, after you get through that second chicane, the Villeneuve chicane, you're really going to want to be pretty single file all the way through there as you get through Piratella and Acqua Minerale, and it is very, very tricky to try to get more than one car by.
Yeah, well, let's hope that it's at least got a little bit more passing than what we saw in Formula One, less aero-dependent cars. But before we get to the racing, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. The PRL Indy Pro 2000 Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning software, trading, and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. As we take a look at the points championship, starting off with the Pro Championship here. As I mentioned, Verity, if he can keep coming home in second, it's going to be very tight. It actually might still give Greg Seitz the victory. It depends on bonus points, I believe, and how that plays out. That's going to be a little bit hard to anticipate. And, of course, Greg could still have issues, and so could Steven. In the meantime, behind them, David Menino, Julio Palacio, and Frank Nguyen round out our top five, all pretty closely packed together in that trio. What about the AM Championship here, DJ?
Well, in the AM Championship, Tyler Gore continues to lead despite his DNF last week, so good on Tyler, but Brian Hotham really starting to try to chase him down, only 13 points back. But Joe, that battle for third place is absolutely electric. Barry Cochran and Sean Duhamel currently tied 23 points back, with Adam Wright only a single point behind them, and Donald Olson on the outside looking in, only 5 points behind of Cochran and Duhamel. So that is a battle you're going to want to keep your eye on.
Now, as for the team's championship, as we take a look at that, SRT Esport Blue is being chased down by Rust Racing. With them getting 1-2s lately, it's shrinking rapidly. Blown Tranny Racing sits in third and could actually get involved in this battle as well. Parabola Racing and SRT Esport Black a little ways back, and both kind of spread apart compared to what we see with those top three. What about today's race details, DJ?
Well, we are in the 7th of 10 rounds, so those championships are really going to start coming into clearer focus here today. It is a 45-minute race. As always, drivers currently out on track about 6 minutes into a 15-minute qualifying session. These are open setups in these Indy Pro 2000 cars, so they are able to tweak and tune the cars to exactly fit their liking. As you mentioned, though, earlier, we do have some bonus points available out there, and one of the ones that's going to come into play today outside of pole and fastest lap is going to be finishing with minimal incidents. This is a track that it is very, very easy to run wide, and do not be surprised if we see a couple of folks not being able to get that clean race bonus point.
Greg Seitz actually pulling a slipstream from his teammate here. He's already got the pole by about 2/10 over Menino, but this one was a slow lap, so not going to count for Greg. Menino just ahead up the road. He was in second in the warm-up, is second right now, and he was just ahead of the guy that's probably hoping he could overtake David if he can't do it here in the qualifying. Stephen Verity, who just handed over the track position to Greg Seitz, his teammate. So those two continuing to cycle around as we now watch Barry Cochran come across the line. That one's not going to be quicker for him, so we turn our attention to Frank Nguyen. The 97 is going to be a little close. Let's see if he can go quicker than this 38.8. Yes, he can, by about 3/10 actually. So he's onto the second row just behind Verity.
A little surprise there, Joe. You saw just how far wide he ran there coming out of Ravazza too, but able to keep it and get it scored. Michael Broomhead there getting in a time on the boards. That'll be a 140 for him, putting him in 20th. He is one of those drivers looking to have a good race today. Here comes Owen McLaughlin, one of the newer pro drivers to the series. Owen's currently sat back in 14th. He's going to cross the line with 39.260. That's a good lap for Owen. Bump him up to 10th place.
David Menino is coming around Ravazza right now. There you see him. And once again, way off the corner. I guess they have quite a bit of leeway there. Let's see if this one counts as we ride on board with them across the line. It does. A 37.7 is about a 10th quicker. He is now only 7/100ths off of Greg Seitz. Greg's going to have to get some quick ones in if he wants to make this a little more comfortable.
He certainly does. David looking like he's got a pretty good understanding of the track as we watch Olivier Legault crossing over the line, unable to go a little bit faster. Olivier currently sat back in 8th position. Here comes Brian Hotham. He's currently sat back in 22nd. The Parabola Racing driver pushing his way across the line. This is such a great straightaway. We, of course, call it a straightaway as Brian's able to go a little bit faster there, and that's going to bump him up to 18th. But we call it a straightaway, but it's got a lot of curves in it.
Yeah, and I've seen that actually cause issues in battles a lot of times. Drivers trying to get the run, and suddenly the car ahead just kind of drifts across the track, and it's not necessarily to try and trip up their opponent. They're just kind of trying to make the shortest distance possible. This is Bowden as he crosses. He sits in 17th, but a 55.4 is way slow for him, unfortunately, so that's not going to do it.
That's not going to be helpful for him. Here comes Adam right across the line. Adam able to get a really good time on the board there. Jump him up to 15th position with a 40 dead. Here comes Owen McLaughlin around once again. Ooh, marginally quicker, 300ths of a second. Not going to move him up any positions, but a better time for Owen.
It's back to Menino once again. Is he finding the temperatures of the tires suiting him better? Does this mean we're going to see another improvement? He crosses the line, and it is not. It is, in fact, his first in a couple laps down into 138, so maybe he's losing a little bit of it. Greg Seitz, but he extends himself as far ahead as Menino as he can go. It's now back to 2/10 between the 74 and the 3.
And that's going to be very, very heartening for Greg Seitz and disconcerting for David Menino trying to close in that gap. As you saw Olivier Legault there, unable to improve on his time as he dives into that Tamburello curves. You can see the big sausage curves there, preventing anybody from trying to cut those corners too much. We now watch Frank Nguyen making his way through Ravazza 1 and 2. Frank currently sat in 7th, taking every inch of the track that he can, just trying to maximize speed. Coming now onto the pit straight. He's going to be pushing across the line. This is going to be a slow lap, though, for Frank.
Yeah, it looks like he had an off track somewhere along there, so that one didn't even count as it was. Dave Peterson, in the meantime, that was not his quickest, so he'll stay put in 16th. Actually, excuse me, he was just crossing it now, and he does improve, 39.7. Looks like he jumps up about 3 spots with that. That'll certainly be appreciated. Hopefully, our drivers can keep it clean, though. We had a race at Daytona last night with the Truck Series, and that one is known for Big One. Well, this one here, DJ, I think it's known for those incidents into the first chicane.
Yeah, just a little bit. It is not uncommon to see these pieces of these open wheelers flying across the track as, David Menino able to put a really good time there, and that's going to put him up to the top.
Wow, by more than a tenth, and Seitz goes even faster. Half a tenth ahead of Menino. Verity finally finds some time, but he is still half a second back from both of them. The 04 is looking like his qualifying pace isn't there. For his sake, I hope he can keep a little bit tighter to them in the race itself.
He's going to have to be hoping to, especially with overtaking at a premium here today. But the interesting thing is going to be is if he's able to get into the draft area of any of the guys in front of him, if they're able to drop off of him and he loses a little bit of that toe down the pit straightaway, that could really work to his disadvantage, create a massive gap, especially if Menino and Seitz are running that much quicker laps.
Not seeing anybody able to set a time recently. A lot of off tracks. Looks like Neil Alexander will get his best one in and pops himself up 1 position on the timing charts. Then it's Aaron Roos next to the line. And he improves by half a second. That'll give him 2 spots on the grid from 26th to 24th. Now we look at Owen McLaughlin, who's just inside the top 10 at a 39.2. What's he got in store?
He's going to be pushing. This is going to be good for Owen there with a 38.790. That'll bump him up 2 spots into 8th position. Brett Thurman crosses the line on a slow lap. He'll have 1 more to gather up and get going.
And so that is it for those who are able to start another flying lap after this one, because we are now under a lap's time. Greg Seitz, quicker yet again, and once again extends himself to 2.5 tenths over David Menino, who does not improve. Verity finds at least a tenth more and is still searching to figure out what exactly his teammate is doing to manage to be so lightning fast today.
Well, Joe, Imola is really one of those tracks that you either love it or you hate it. And I think just based off of seeing some of these drivers, a lot of them are falling into that latter category. It's a very tricky technical track. We see there Lucio Vargas unable to improve on his best time, but the tricky technical nature of that second sector, it can really throw a lot of drivers for a loop. And if it just doesn't suit your style, it's very hard to master.
Now that car we see stopped, that's Jacob Exton. He's allowed to park it there. He's off the racing line, although it's considered a bit rude and awkward. Not sure why he is just parked it there. As we watch the last of them come through, some of them abandoning the last of their qualifying. Aaron Roos was the one you saw heading in as we watch Bowden now. And he does go quicker, up to 17th with that 40.2. Here's Brett Thurman in 5th in that number 69 machine. A 38.1 is his best. He only has to make up a little more than 100th to take 4th place, but he doesn't do it. He'll get one last shot.
Here comes Sean Duhamel starting a slow lap. That's going to be tough for him. He did not make it across, but here comes Greg Seitz. Is Seitz, I don't think that time's going to work out. No, Seitz is slow, so that 37.1 is going to stay. Stephen Verity across the line, also slow. So those two Rust Racing drivers unable to improve there on their final lap.
Palacio also doesn't go any quicker. He stays put. Next up is Legault sitting in 9th. He has a 38.8 on the board, another one with less than a 10th to try and get at least one position, and he does. That'll bump him up to 8th.
Good for him. We watched Neil Alexander making his way through Variante Alta. Very, very tricky part of the track. You've got to be very careful with the suspension on these cars. They can take a good chunk of curb, but you've got to be careful to walk that fine line, as if you take a little bit too much of them, it is a one-way ticket to suspension damage. I have seen these cars completely fall apart if you take the curbs too hard, but here comes Alexander onto the main straight. A little bit of a wiggle there coming out of Ravazza 2.
Checkered flag waving for the 276, and it's not going to be faster. He's about 0.2 off behind him. Takeshi Kita does go quicker, and he actually goes up to 14th, a big leap for him.
Looks like Don Bowden also able to improve there. He'll jump up to 13th, jumping above of Takashi Kita. One of Kita's better qualifying performances here, but wouldn't be surprised if we see him finishing higher up in the grid, as that tends to be what he does.
He certainly likes to travel his way through, but the grid is set, so let's go through our starting order. Greg Seitz has put it on the pole. That's another bonus point for him. David Menino will be starting in 2nd with Stephen Verity, Greg's teammate, just behind him in 3rd. Julio Palacio rounds out row 2 and 4th. Brett Thurman starts P5 and Alex Gaillon starts 6th. Frank Nguyen with a P7 will be flanked by Olivier Legault. Then in row 5, it's Owen McLaughlin and Jacob Exton rounding out your top 10.
Starting out in 11th will be Matthew Gunderson. Flanking him will be Declan Eady. Behind them, Don Bowden and Sean Duhamel will be lining up 13th and 14th, followed by, you heard us talking about him earlier, Takashi Kita in the inside of row 8. To his outside will be Dave Peterson. Those two pro drivers in the midst of a sea of AM drivers. Lucio Vargas will be 17th, followed by Adam Wright with Barry Cochran 19th, and Brett Accord rounding out your top 20.
And 21st, it's going to be Neil Alexander with Brian Hotham in 22nd. Then Tyler Gore starts P23, and Michael Broomhead starts 24th. Aaron Roos put it in 25th today with Nicholas Collender in 26th. Donald Olson 27th and Daniel Barnett in 28th. All 29 drivers managed to get times in, with a bear rounding them out in 29th. That'll be plenty of cars to make it interesting out there today for a 45-minute race. Who is going to be able to keep it clean? Who will avoid wrecking the car on the curbs or getting a cut course penalty with the chicanes tripping them up, as we wait for them to take off here from the grid on a very short pace lap behind the Porsche pace car. And as we asked before as well, who is going to be able to avoid a wreck into Tamburello?
It's a very, very tricky corner, Joe, under the best of circumstances, and on a race start, it is so incredibly difficult to get right. Those familiar with Top Gear may remember that they talk about how you have to sort of be almost trail braking going onto the straight angle of it, because that straight that we talked about on the front straight, it continues to bend away from you. The turn just comes up out of nowhere, so it's very tricky to get that car positioned exactly right as it goes around. And when you are doing that with multiple cars all around you, it can be a one-way ticket to disaster. That said, we have seen the talent level in this PRL Indy Pro 2000 series, and they always seem up to the challenge. So if anybody can get through that first corner safely, I think it may be these guys.
Yeah, I'd say that this is absolutely one of the cleaner leagues, especially in these open wheel cars. Of course, ovals notwithstanding, but they're working on that. As they come down towards Vatsa now, taking off behind our pace car. It is 83 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. We'll want to do a little bit of heating up of the tires just to get them into the working range, but otherwise we've got great racing conditions here today in Italy. 28 Celsius for anybody over across the pond and using metric conditions. So coming out of Ravazza, Greg Seitz follows behind the Porsche, and he's going to be released to accelerate when he pleases. There it goes, down into pit lane. Greg backs them up, waits patiently, and now he accelerates. Green flag is out for Greg Seitz. Unfortunately for Menino, his teammate has got a great jump, and he's going to have the inside as they come down towards Tamburello's first apex. Will Verity be able to outbrake him into the corner and complete the pass? Everybody files in here, but Verity breaks early. He gives second place back to him. A little bit of side-by-side farther down in the field, but so far it is actually quite tidy amongst them.
All of our dire predictions proved to not. Only guy I'm seeing off, David Hebert, having a little bit of a spin, but up front, after that early charge there, you're seeing Menino really taking the fight to Greg Seitz here. Got a much better exit and entrance coming through Villeneuve, and as they make their way up Tosa and towards Piratella, Menino hot on Seitz's heels.
Verity is not. He drops back to about a second and a half already from our leaders, being chased down by a couple too. Palacio, Gaillon, Thurman, Nguyen, Legault, and Exton are essentially still in a train as we come around the first half of the lap, and out of Aqua Minerale, back uphill they head towards Alta.
They do, and you can see all of the drivers making their way very carefully through Aqua Minerale, one of the hardest tracks, or one of the hardest corners in the absolute world to get right. I will go on record as saying that. Everybody's seeming to get through nice and easy through Variante Alta. That is an area of a danger zone where you can see a little bit of problems start to occur, but up front, Greg Seitz able to pull a little bit of a gap to David Menino, but David able to keep up behind. He will still be in that draft range as they head onto the pit straight.
Let's see how much it's worth here. He starts at about 6/10 behind, and Greg Seitz picks up speed at nearly 150 miles an hour. I think I saw Frank Nguyen have an issue out of the corner. We'll check it in a second. And at the end of the straights, it was only a tenth, 2/10 under braking that Menino was able to gain. Let's see what happened to Nguyen. He unfortunately fell to literally the back of the field. And he's in the pits already, so he must have hit something. Looks like this happens out of Ravazza. It is right here. Second apex. Oh! You know, we heard some of the drivers talking about bottoming out over the curbs, and I wonder if that's what he experienced, because it really went away from him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was there, Joe. If you look at the setup to that corner when he goes into Ravazza 2, he actually misses the apex going in, and I think that threw his line out just enough that he ran the belly of the car right over that curve that caused it to bottom out and lose all of that grip. So a bit of a heartbreak there for Frank Nguyen. Always an exciting driver to watch as he tries to charge his way through the field.
Oh, and I think Gaillon has also had issues. He's off an Aqua Minerale, the 808, gets the car going. This might have been with Bowden. Yeah, it was. There was contact between the pair of them. And unfortunately, it seems that Bowden was the one that came off the better of the pair. There you see the contact out of the corner.
I have to say, I think that's a little bit of an overambitious move there from Don. He did clearly flash his nose. You saw it there very late on the brakes there, but trying to make that too wide through the second part of Aqua Minerale, that's a hard move to pull off even under the best of circumstances.
I was going to say, too wide at any part in Aqua Minerale is kind of dangerous. I'm surprised they held it that long. Gaillon is going to have to come in for some repairs. This is way too early for a standard stop. Legault just had an issue in Tamburello. Looks like he's going to keep going. But look at this between Menino and Seitz. David, much better this time around, and actually cut it down to 0.3 of a second briefly as we hop on board, looking over his suspension.
Yeah, and I was keeping an eye on their lap times and just the overall handling of the car, and it looks like that David doesn't quite quite have the speed that Greg does in Sector 3. So that's really very anti-Alta and Ravazza 1 and 2. But in the early part of the track and even into Agua Minerale, it looks like David has been able to keep up with him. So something we're going to kind of have to keep an eye on, maybe a little bit of setup differences or just driving style for both of these drivers.
A number of drivers having issues. We've now lost Donald Olson, and he's already actually exited the race, so he must have had some sort of serious issue. We'll look into that a little bit later. Let's watch this, though, because Menino is quite close this time. Keeps it about half a second. They both come off of Ravazza, but once again, just like you talked about there, DJ, he fell back to about 0.6 of a second. And from what we saw before, that's just not worth enough.
It's really not, and I think part of it is there you see Greg Seitz setting the fastest lap of the race. I think part of it is watch their lines as they come out of Ravazza 2 the next time. It looks like that Menino is kind of clipping the exit of the corner ever so slightly, almost blunting his own momentum going around there, and Seitz is really allowing the momentum to carry through the corner more and maximize speeds down the straight.
Up on board the helmet cam of Menino as he gives chase up and around Tosa. A steep climb heading towards Piratella. We're only 4 laps in, but we've had some mighty climbers, and one of them is Michael Broomhead in the 00. He has gone from 24th to 15th, and again, everybody qualified, so unless Michael just messed up way too many qualifying laps, this is actually pretty stunning that he's gained 9 positions in just 4 laps.
It really is. Michael putting on a very, very good drive here today. Everything relatively calm, cool, and collected for him. He's running about in the 41 territory as his best lap, so that's obviously a little bit off of our leaders who are running down in the 37 range, but to be doing that in dirty air around this track is very, very impressive.
We're heading over to the battle for 7th. Duhamel being chased by McLaughlin coming out of Alta. And my goodness, the 90 has been really all over his gearbox for a little while now. Hasn't been able to make the pass. Watch from onboard Sean looking back at Owen. Let's see if this front stretch makes it easier for these two compared to what we saw for the leaders. Ooh, Owen is very good off of that last apex. He's going to definitely pull a toe here as they start to pick up speed. Duhamel, is he going to play defense up into Tamburello? Drifts off to the left side, then back to the racing line on the right. No, he's going to leave the door open, and he doesn't need to defend as McLaughlin stays behind.
Yeah, but he compromised his exit ever so slightly. It looked like he was driving in his rearview mirror. There was Duhamel. You can see just how closer Owen McLaughlin was able to get up behind him. They fan out ever so slightly coming into Villeneuve. Duhamel able to carry a little bit more speed into the first part of that corner, but now they're going to dive down here into Tosa. Alternate lines there. A lot more speed on exit from Owen McLaughlin.
And behind them, they've also got his teammate Matthew Gunderson watching, along with a few other cars. Adam Wright is in there along with Dave Peterson. In fact, they're going to change positions. A couple of them are. There goes Peterson up ahead, and there goes McLaughlin past Duhamel. So, quick as you like, 2 cars gaining, 2 cars losing.
Well, Joe, remember when I said you couldn't make a pass going into Agua Minerale? There you have it. Owen McLaughlin doing his best to prove me wrong, and massive kudos there to Owen. That was a mega, mega move to be able to pull off, and you can see the distance. He's already starting to pull over Sean Duhamel, with Matthew Gunderson now starting to bear down on the number 90. It looked like Duhamel's a little bit of the cork on the bottle here.
I think I agree. As they come around and out of Ravazza, Gunderson is very strong. He actually should have the ability to make an attempt. He's going to poke his nose to the left side as they approach that first chicane, but he starts to lose out. Top speed not working as well for the 33. He gets back in line. Well, I thought that was going to be a slam dunk, and that proved me wrong.
Yeah, these cars can be a little bit finicky, Joe, when it comes to getting that draft exactly perfected. You know, there's just enough downforce to make things interesting, as they like to say. And when you pop out like that, if you pop out too early, you completely negate any effect you have from the draft. And I think that's exactly what happened there.
time it exactly right. Look up in front of them. That's Thurman with McLaughlin very quickly to the back of him. After the 90 got past Duhamel, he has wasted no time in trying to chase down the pair up in 5th and 6th. That's Exton just in front of them in the red, white, and blue machine, but in the orange, white, and black, we watch Thurman. We're on board with him now. You can see in the mirrors, poking his nose back and forth, Owen McLaughlin. Not going to make a move into Alta, at least quite yet. Is that going to change behind him? Oh, it's a bad exit from Duhamel, and I think Gunderson's got a great run here. Try and take over 8th.
He does indeed. You can see diving down the hill, and there goes Sean Duhamel just making that move stick as they get into the braking zone for Ravazza 1. Very, very good move there from Duhamel to get himself up by, but he may have misjudged this slightly. Matthew Gunderson's going to get a little bit of a good tow here, but don't watch out. That's Dave Peterson in the 35 behind. He's going to get a double draft and maybe able to make something happen.
In fact, he's the teammate of Duhamel. So as Sean plays defense, it'll give a little bit of offense to his cohort. The 35 is through, and he shows Matthew Gunderson how it's done.
Very, very good. Very, very disheartening for Matthew Gunderson. That's 2 positions and really as many corners there. But this midfield battle really shaping up into something spectacular. As up front, Greg Seitz is really starting to pull away. About a 2-second gap back to David Menino.
A little wide coming out of Villeneuve there for Peterson. And Gunderson thought about it, but didn't do anything into Tosa. Now we'll get another shot at it, potentially up into Piratella. As they accelerate, now he drops a little too far back, and Adam Wright behind him continues to keep an eye on things as well, as he knows he could have just as good of an opportunity to try and move up positions. We're just past 12 minutes into this race now, and things in the mid-pack are looking awful tight.
They certainly are. You can see them there flashing by into Piratella, or into Variante Alta. So we're hearing Tyler Gore is currently in the pits. Not sure why. We'll have to check out and see that here in a second. But this there, you can see him on screen.
He had a wreck out of Villeneuve. Unfortunately, this was a solo incident, and he smashed it into the wall. Thankfully, nobody else getting caught up in it, but it was enough that he couldn't keep driving on, so he had to take a tow. We're going to look at 6th in the meantime as they go by him. Jacob Exton just ahead of Brett Thurman and Owen McLaughlin, still sizing the pair of them up.
And Exton, another one of those drivers on a good charge here today. He is up 5 spots from his starting position of 10th. He was able to get some good moves on Brett Thurman to get that out of the way. But really driving a race that has become almost stereotypical for Jacob.
We got some problems with a cord. Trying to figure out what's going on here. This appears to be in Tamburello. I think this was on his own. Yes, indeed. That is Michael Broomhead that's chasing him. But as the 151 sends it in, and there's those tricky curves, just unfortunately capturing another victim.
Most certainly, and I have to give credit there actually in that to Michael Broomhead. That is exactly how you want to do it in terms of forcing your opponent into a mistake. That's exactly what he did. Brett was very clearly driving in his rear view mirror, not paying full attention to his braking zone, turned in a little bit early, took a little too much curb, and that's what sent him around.
Watching Peterson and Gunderson before. But now it looks like Peterson has been overtaken by Matthew. Oh, behind him as well. I think Adam Wright is going to discover the pace of Takeshi Kita in the race is much better than you would imagine. Takeshi nearly got by there. Oh, and a mistake out of the corner. That's Dave Peterson. Looks like he slipped up. Wright is going to go by. Kita is going to go by. And is Kita going to get a 2-for-1 deal? He pulls the slipstream on both of them. Kita gets the inside as they come down to Tamburello, and that blocks off Peterson from being able to fight back. But Kita breaks early. Wright gets a spot. Kita gets a spot. Peterson loses 2.
Oh, but it's not done yet.
Almost gets his nose back in, and that actually backfired. Vargas gets the inside down into Villeneuve. Is he going to be able to fend him off? Yes, he is.
Good driving there from Dave Peterson to hold that off, and very, very heads up all the way around from Takashi Kita to be able to keep everything nice together. But there you see that looks like it's Michael Broomhead starting to challenge a little bit on Lucio Vargas as well. So that battle behind shaping out as well.
It's been a real domino effect. It started up at the front, and then everybody behind found an opportunity, and only one has been able to capitalize. Among them, Michael Broomhead eventually goes by Lucio Vargas.
He does, and Adam Wright ran a little bit wide coming out of Piratello. I thought that may have been a mistake for him, but we're right on board with Michael Broomhead. There you can see he's starting to put some distance in between himself and Lucio Vargas as they go down into Variance Alta. So good job there from Michael, just being cognizant of where everybody else is on track, recognizing that some dominoes are falling and picking up the pieces.
Back to that battle with Kita and Adam Wright. They've lost touch with the pair ahead of them. That's Gunderson and Duhamel. So now they lead this train of cars as they come down the front stretch towards Tamburello. Wright looks well clear. Slipstream just not as powerful as I think the drivers would like today.
No, Joe, and I think that's a combination. We have relatively low humidity here, so the air is not nearly as thick, as well as these cars are not heavy downforce dependent cars. They're not punching as big of a hole in the air as we see like something in the the LMP2s or even the GTEs on the iRacing service. So that's really causing some of the problems.
Indeed, down through Villeneuve. Takeshi Kita still following in the wake of the 87. 30 minutes left now. They're into the pit window. I saw, I think, at least one of them making a scheduled stop. I think Daniel Barnett in the 67 has gone in and out and is back running. A little bit up in front of all this is Exton and McLaughlin. Got Brett Thurman about a second back behind him. Not really involved, at least for the time being.
No, but they're going to want to keep an eye on that, because if these two squabble here a whole lot, that is going to allow for him to get pulled right in behind. But in the meantime, keeping this as a nice little battle. Jacob Exton, your current highest rated AM driver, doing a good job to keep Owen McLaughlin at bay. You see similar braking zones there, so not a lot of give and take between them. Now it's all a matter of who can get the better power out of Ravazza too.
Again, coming out of the final few corners. They're not coming into pit yet. We expect them to take a late strategy based on what we've seen all season. McLaughlin actually looking like his toe is a little bit more powerful than what we've seen from others. Exton goes defensive, looking down for the inside braking in Tamburello. Is that going to throw him coming off the corner? No, he handles it beautifully. The 22 fends off the number 90 and retains that spot. Oh, and Sean Duhamel has gone off. The 617, who we saw fighting quite a bit before with the likes of Matthew Gunderson, has given it away.
Oh, we watched the replay here. This is lining up, headed into Tamburello here. It looks like it's the same story on a different lap. Just goes in, catches a little bit too much of those curves, and hello, kitty litter.
And that was almost a carbon copy of what we saw with Accord. So it seems it's an easy mistake to make. Just coming in there a little too hot, trying to take the inside too far, and then we discover those bumps are not friendly with these Indy Pro machines. That allows us to head back, though, to that battle we were watching just before between Exton, McLaughlin, and Thurman. They stay in that order, 5th, 6th, and 7th. But we're coming around the front stretch one more time.
We are, and they are bunching up here big time. Looks like there that Jacob Exton was getting a little bit of a better approach into Ravazza too, and now Thurman forced to back off a little bit. Look at that car wiggle, though, out of Owen McLaughlin. Something clearly applying the power, not exactly suiting the way that car is set up. As there you see, that's Exton diving down to the inside, just doing everything he can do to break the draft down the pit straight.
It's a repeat of last time. McLaughlin to the outside. Did he learn anything? Nope, he backs out of it. He's just going to abandon it for now. Doesn't want to push the issue too hard, so he'll stay put in 6th place. He's got to watch out for Brett Thurman. He keeps making attacks like that. He could open the door for the 69 machine to be able to sneak into his spot.
Most certainly, and that is the trickiest part about trying to play those head games like we always talk about, of just poking your nose out to the inside to see if you can force the driver ahead of you into a mistake, is that it does slow you down ever so slightly. And now you can see Thurman looking like he's got a very good run there coming out of Tosa. They're going to make their way up to Piratella here. The gap between these two just absolutely shrinking. Thurman taking a very wide line outside of Piratella, but nobody making the moves here smartly into Agua Minerale.
Box of McLaughlin. Thurman has to check up. Maybe almost cost him a little bit of a run here if he was slightly farther back. Coming down through Alta. McLaughlin is watching ever so closely. Just making sure that the tiniest of mistakes from the 22 hands over that 5th position. See, Derry's very close coming down into Ravazza. No, he almost gets run into. Riding on board with Thurman. Quick apology on the radio from that to Owen McLaughlin as he just about gave him quite a shove.
He did, but it didn't look like it slowed down Owen all that much. He's going to stay right up behind Jacob Exton here again. He's going to try that same approach that we've seen here do, but he's got a little bit more breathing room behind with that mistake from Thurman. So here he goes back again to the outside. Not pushing the issue, though. He's going to brake nice and easy and keep on that line, just trying to force Exton into a little bit of a compromised line. Certainly worked there on the exit of Tamburello. Here he comes again into Villeneuve.
Side by side up into the 2nd chicane. Once again, McLaughlin electing to brake a little bit early. Maybe looking for the better exit. Still can't find it. He also gets a little bobble coming over the exit curb. Maybe that car is beaching out as they now head back up towards Piratella. 24 minutes left on the clock. We're getting closer to the end of the pit window at this point.
Indeed we are, Joe. This is about when I'd suspect to start seeing drivers really starting to come in here.
Raleigh. This time it's reversed. It's Owen McLaughlin who's on the back foot, unable to keep up with Exton as Thurman reels him in. Come up to Alta, down through that tight little small chicane. None of them really taking much in the way of inroads out of there. So that's just going to spread them apart slightly. Behind them, keep half an eye on Takeshi Kita and Michael Broomhead. This is for 9th and 10th. Both of them doing a good job heading forward. Again, Kita up 5 spots and Broomhead up 13.
Michael just absolutely having the run of his life and trying to get a good run here out of Ravazza 2. Looks like it's not exactly doing Takashi, maybe a little bit more trimmed out in that car. He's got a little less downforce as Joe. We do have a first pitter, Brett Thurman, down the pit lane.
So he's going to split it in half here. We watch him on board the Andy's Racing driver. Looking at his rivals, Broomhead and Wright. I'm watching out of the corner of my eye the timing for Thurman's pit stop to give us an idea of what the others will be aiming for. And 11 seconds is the answer.
All right, so we'll have to be scribbling that down on our clipboards as we continue to watch this battle. Bad exit there for Takashi Kita. That's really going to allow Broomhead to close up here. Unfortunately, Piratella is a very difficult place to overtake, and Michael Broomhead knows it. Backs off ever so slightly, just trying to carry a little bit more speed, but it looks like it's advantage Takashi Kita.
A note on Thurman as well. He took tires. We'll see what others decide is wise out here today. It's still not incredibly hot out. It's only 86 degrees Fahrenheit currently, which is pretty much what we started with. Despite the sun rising, it's not cooking it too hot. Out of Alta, and still really up close behind the number 30, but unable to do much with it. They plunge downhill to return to the front portion of the circuit around Ravazza. Broomhead finally get the run he's been looking for.
Well, he takes a little bit of a different line there out of Ravazza, trying for something he'll be able to get past as Takashi Kita and Adam Wright both come down the pits.
Okay. So Kita, Wright, and Vargas is in. Dave Peterson is in. Looks like those behind him also not pitting. Highest pitter right now is, what is he? Is it Alex Guyon? No, Guyon's pitted early for some damage repair. Looks like Daniel Barnett I'm seeing currently. Nope, Owen McLaughlin is on his way as a few more drivers sneak on through.
And Joe, I was taking a look at those pit stops. The majority of drivers taking fresh tires here. So I think this track is a little bit more abrasive than we were getting ourselves ready for. Track temperature is slowly climbing. It's now up to 87 on track. So these guys clearly wanted fresh rubber on the car.
Now, Brett Thurman is in. Wasn't he in a battle not long ago? I'm double checking. He's been in for about a minute and some change. I wonder if he had an incident. He did. He had an incident. This must have been about a minute and a half ago, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to get the replay. The 69 spun it out of Piratella, since had to take a tow, and he might be able to recover to just try and pick up a few points, but otherwise his competitive hopes today are over.
This is your leader. We haven't really talked about him much since the first part of the race, but Greg Seitz once again putting on a Greg Seitz-esque performance, working his way through Piratella and Agua Minerale. Greg has not pitted yet, but he does have about a 5.5 second gap all the way back to P2 in David Menino.
There's someone else come in. Looks like it's Neil Alexander, 276, along with Brett Accord. And a few more. I see Barry Cochran in, Brian Hotham, Colander, and the two behind him, Roofs and McLaughlin, stay out. You know, I really do appreciate iRacing considering the safety of the pit workers and installing these sirens, because sure makes it easier to tell when someone is pitting.
It certainly does. That the ambient noise pack that they added a couple of months back, very, very helpful, as our leader is in the pits as well, Greg Seitz.
All right. Peterson pitted and then took a tow. Not sure what that's about, unless he ran out of fuel. Looks like Menino joins him. And is Verity going in? Verity behind, and he's behind David Hebert, who is slow into pit lane. This might actually wind up being costly for the 04, as he couldn't go as quickly as he wanted. Right on board here with Verity. This is Seitz now, who has finished his stop. It's a quick one, 7 seconds. Was that a non-tires pit stop then?
I think it was, but Joe, even faster than that, David Menino with a 5.3 second pit stop. So David, I think, going for a short fuel strategy here today.
Checking to see if either of them took tires. Menino is a no, and Seitz is a yes. So Seitz did take tires.
All right, so we'll have to see what happens there. If Greg Seitz continues to pull out that gap in a massive way, it'll be something that we can attribute a little bit to tires. And looks like everybody else diving into the pits here today.
Indeed. Broomhead has taken his stop. Exton, Gunderson, they're all having to take that long trip down to the cone. So McLaughlin cycles past them, taking a bunch of spots, and continues in 5th. Broomhead gonna inherit 6th behind him, Exton in 7th, and Gunderson in 8th.
And that battle we were following earlier with Kita and Wright, they ended up a decent amount behind them, about 2.5 seconds. So that early pit stop, not exactly in dividends before them, is that gap before they came in was hovering around a 1.5 seconds.
This is one of our closest battles here that we're watching, the battle for P6, which was close even before the pit stops, frankly. They all came in together. They all came out together. Exton losing a little bit of touch with Broomhead, who has since snuck by him. So Gunderson, as he follows in his number 33, waiting for those crucial mistakes. It's a reputation here with that difficulty of being hard to pass. And I think, unfortunately, it's bearing itself out today, though not impossible. Certainly the pit strategy has helped a few drivers out along the way. We're going to watch from Gunderson's perspective through the myriad of chicanes at this track.
And you saw there, Joe, going through Variante Alta, just how careful he was trying to keep that car off of anything resembling a high curve. I think he's really trying to preserve a good finish here today for Matthew Gunderson in 8th place.
On the front stretch, they all spread apart as Broomhead and Exton got good exits over Matthew Gunderson, basically leaving that 33 in the dust, at least for this lap. Still got to survive for 15 more minutes. A third of the race left to go here for round 7 in the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series. So what about Takeshi Kita? Remember, Adam Wright was chasing him. Lucio Vargas still on their tail. And how about Olivier Legault? Starting to become a factor in this one.
He is. Legault has put in a very good drive to claw his way back. He is only not sitting too far behind here, so he has got his eyes set ahead. He is in 12th right now, trying to go forward. Misses the apex ever so slightly there, just trying to carry a little bit more speed on the outside of Tosa.
Unfortunately, falls back slightly from Vargas with that, but he can still see all 3 of them up in front of him. Like I said, those pit stops seem to have spoiled a few of the battles, though some are still close, but they're not exactly thrillers right now. They're all just kind of waiting for something to happen in front of them.
Well, and Joe, that's kind of what you have to do here at Imola. You know, we talk about it a lot of the head game, the mental game that you've got to play. And the more you can crowd your opponent's rearview mirror, the more you can make them think about what's happening behind them, instead of what is in front of them on the track, the more likely they are to make a mistake at any form of racing. And so that's exactly what these guys are going to want to do. So as we get down into these dying phases, if you see a guy try to poke their nose out at the last minute, we watch here Adam Wright getting a very good draft there on Takeshi Kita. This may looks like Wright checks up a little bit. Kita able to carry a little bit more speed going into Tamburello. Ooh, but there's that poke out to the nose for Adam Wright, just trying to make Takeshi look in his rear view as he navigates the corner.
And ahead of him, that's actually for position. Did something happen to Gunderson here that he's suddenly losing speed? I'm looking at his lap time. Doesn't look outrageously slow, but he's being caught. Maybe he got some damage from some curb not long ago. This is just very strange.
It is. It looks like Kita is just able to be over the back of him in a blink of an eye. But what this may do, depending on if Takeshi's able to get this pass done here fast, it may slow him up and put him back into the clutches of Adam Wright. So now the impetus is on Takeshi to try to get by as fast as possible.
As best I can tell, he got a slowdown penalty a lap ago here at Alta, but they caught up to him way after that. So unless Matt served his slowdown penalty very late, it just seems a bit strange. This is, however, going to put him under threat because here comes Kita. The number 30 is thinking about yet another one. He knows how to make overtakes in these races. He knows how to move his way forward. Can he get up into P8? It's a good launch. They start to pick up speed and the slipstream increases.
Look at that. That's the best slipstream I'd argue we'd seen today. Kita down to the inside, works his way there. He's going to hold that inside line, move back over, and place given to Takeshi Kita.
Made that look easy. Whoa, not so easy, unfortunately, for Wright as he goes offline, and Vargas is going to try and take advantage of it. As there was a little poke from Gunderson, but nothing doing on that. Vargas is going to be able to get by Adam Wright and into 10th. Behind them, that is Legault also for position. Did he miss the gravy boat? No. He's going to try and make a pass into Tosa. Not always easy, but possible. He gets cut off, and he'll have to stay put in 12th.
That was a very, very brave maneuver, but you saw just how much speed he lost, just how much momentum he lost by trying to blunt that effect off there for Olivier Legault. But Legault trying to keep up the attack. And we're going to jump back up to Kita and Gunderson as this battle's really starting to heat back up.
Gunderson wants that one, and he wants it now. He lost it after what we think was some sort of error on his part, slowing him up. Does he have the pace to try and fight back and then pull away from the likes of the number 30? They come down into Ravazza again. And this is where he's got to make that critical exit.
Can he do it? We saw Takeshi get a much better line off that corner the last time. It looks like Matthew took a little bit of a more narrow line that'll cost him a little bit of time. And indeed, Takeshi pulls away at the beginning phase of this pit lane, or this pit straight. So there he goes, trying to catch up. It doesn't look like Matthew's quite got the closing speed here. But one thing to keep in mind, these guys have started catching some lapped cars. That is Tyler Gore up ahead of them, so they will have to be navigating that.
So will certainly make it a little bit more tricky. They come into the Villeneuve chicane for the teammate there of Matthew Gunderson. Sees it coming though, and he'll dutifully pull out of the way. Nicely done. Now, as all of this has been going on, we do have a leader. We just haven't shown him because there's been nobody close to him. Greg Seitz has about a 6-second lead over David Menino. Probably more critically for Greg, he is 2 positions ahead of his main rival in the championship and his teammate, Stephen Verity, who is currently in 3rd and a whopping 25 seconds behind Greg Seitz. So the 74 is really putting a marker down. Almost, this seems like a psychological move of its own, just making sure that he dominates his teammate and lets him know exactly who is the quickest here.
Very much so, and I can tell you as that teammate for Stephen Verity, it's got to be very, very tough to see somebody disappearing off into the distance like that. Just ask Valtteri Bottas how hard it is to see your teammate win championship after championship and tell me you don't get a little demoralized on it. But Verity nevertheless doing a good job. He's got a big gap back to Julio Palacio with about 9 seconds. He's running in podium position. This is not going to destroy his championship hopes. You said it at the top of the broadcast, Joe. If Verity were to finish second and pick up some bonus points, this would be very, very close. This is just going to make things a little easier for Seitz.
Exactly. I have a feeling that Verity probably doesn't want to try and points play this thing. The battle that we saw before between Vargas and Wright got awful close. Vargas actually got a good run on the 87 down the front stretch, but then ran out of room as he got squeezed towards the pit wall. And you can see that has put him on the back foot as well. The 88 of Legault watching, looking side to side up into Piratella. Not willing to make the move there, but certainly excited to try and see if he can put the attack on the 710.
Yeah, Joe, and again, you saw Legault take that very, very narrow line through Piratella, almost diamonding off the corner, just coming tight on either side of it. It's really counter to what most people do through that. Normally want to take a little bit of a later apex there to try to carry speed up through Piratella. But credit where credit's due, it's working for Olivier. As here comes Adam Wright, getting under attack here big time from Lucio Vargas.
Vargas looking to the inside into Ravazza. If he makes the pass, remember he's got to try and get away down the front stretch. He does successfully get through. What can Wright do in retort? He's relatively close behind, but look at how close Legault is in his mirrors. This is going to be fascinating. Will they fan out 3 wide? Will both of them try and make the overtake on Vargas? No, only one. It is going to be Legault. He gets car 1. Does he get car 2? He's deep on the brakes. A gutsy move is going to pay off. And look at the reward that the 88 gets. He cracks into the top 10.
Mega pass there from Olivier Legault, sticking it on the outside and carrying that momentum through Tamburello. Absolutely mega kudos to the 88. That is how you get it done at Imola.
Amazing stuff there from Olivier Legault. But now that he's got it, remember, he has to fend them off for the final 7 laps of this race, 7 minutes of this race, rather. So will Vargas or will Wright have some sort of retort for a spectacular maneuver like that? We are down to 16 cars left on the lead lap. So these are actually some of our latter cars still left running on the same lap as Greg Seitz. Such is the pace been around here today.
such is the pace, man, such has been the level of attrition, frankly, as we've seen a lot of guys coming into the pits, getting a quick repair and heading back out, not really able to keep all four wheels on the gray stuff, as it were, and that's really what's caused a lot of these guys to fall down the order, but nothing terminal, thankfully, as we still have a lot of drivers, 22 by my count, still circulating around the track.
Come back onto the front stretch. Anderson and Peterson as well, not very close here. Excuse me, Kita, rather, not Peterson. He's in the pits. So lose 3. Break once again, and compared to last time, Legault has pulled a gap, and now Wright has caused a gap, but not the way he wants to. He cut across the chicane. He's got a slowdown penalty and loses touch with Vargas in front of him.
And I have to say, Joe, that looks like Tamburello is absolutely Adam Wright's kryptonite here today. That corner, that's the 3rd time by my count I have seen him off and into the gravel around that tricky first corner.
Splits up another battle there. Not really missing anything. Honestly, within the top 8, everybody about 3 seconds apart or more from each other. If you head down the order, a little bit of a battle between a few cars, but even that is broken up. So why don't we give a little bit of love to Greg Seitz, see how a master does it here today. Currently holds, no surprise here, the fastest lap of the race at a 37.5. So that's another bonus point unless Steven can manage to snatch that away.
Well, and Joe, to your point about that 37.5, that is a whopping 2.5 tenths faster than anybody else has been able to run here today. So Greg Seitz just putting in a masterclass. There you see him check up a little bit behind some lap traffic, not wanting to catch it at the wrong time going into the Variante Alta. He is just absolutely running the race he wants to run today and looks untouchable.
Certainly. I think Greg Seitz will be happy about this. I believe this will be win number 4 this season for Greg. He had a bit of a shaky start, but since then, things are starting to come together. Comes around the cross with about 3.5 minutes to go. Let's see, I think we're about 2 laps left.
I think that's about right. Maybe a little close at the line, but we'll have to see when Greg works his way back around again there. You see diving into Tamburello. You can see just how smooth he is on the inputs. Not a lot of jerking of the wheel. Everything cool and collected, off, taking the car as wide as it will go, slowly applying the throttle back on, and then getting it back out wide again to break down here for Toza and charge your way up the hill.
Now, earlier on in the race, remember you talked about cars coming forward and being a cork in the bottle. Well, Olivier Legault was dispensing with a lot of those corks. He just overtook Matthew Gunnarsson, shook him into an error through Alta. Let's get a replay of this one. Legault back up to 9th, but he was actually out of position a little bit as he started this one in 8th, so he's trying to get back where he was before. This is the view from Legault. You're going to see a little too much curb. Yeah, there, just bounds over it, and Gunnarsson off to the right side as Legault says, thank you very much. It was lap 3 from what I'm seeing in my notes here that Legault had a problem, and that is what cost him positions that he has since been trying to play catch-up for. Ooh, and Gundarsson's problems aren't done yet. His mistake has allowed Lucio Vargas to look at a top 10.
We ride on board here with Lucio. You can see having to struggle a little bit with that aerodynamic wake that he is going to be struggling with ever so slightly. But just trying to keep the power on as much as he can. He's got about 2 laps to go here as Greg Seitz has crossed the line with enough time to allow for 2 laps to go.
That's certainly valuable for the likes of Vargas, but Gundarsson probably not happy that there's an extra one in there that he's got to defend. See the watch just through the helmet cam. Lucio Vargas just ahead of him. Can he get it tidier this time? He absolutely chucks it in, but it is better at the apexes. Vargas has no retort.
It is not. Now they charge down the hill. Looks like Vargas has a little bit of a better run there. You can see Gunderson taking a little bit of curb that will just cause the most nearest of wheel spin moments there, both coming through the second part of Ravazza. Good run there for Vargas, carrying a lot of speed onto the pit straight.
Already managed to get an overlap. They come through towards Tamburello. Is Vargas going to get the job done? He's fully passed, and Gunderson doesn't fight it too hard. He just slips back into line and chases him through Tamburello. Just as they do that, Greg Seitz comes out of the final corner, getting ready to take the white flag. One more to go for Greg Seitz to look for win number 4 on this season.
And Joe, accolades cannot be heaped well enough on Greg Seitz, just running an absolutely perfect race here today. And let's be very clear, it was not quiet across the board, having to fend off a very stiff fight early on from David Menino, but Greg able to stand the pressure and just run the race he wanted to run. And this is the thing that very much impresses me. You know, his fastest lap is a 37.525. His last lap was a 39.477. He knows when to push, and he knows when to stay nice and calm, and that is what he has been doing over the course of these last couple of laps. Not pushing the car, not trying to go for some crazy all-out move. As I say that, he gets up over onto the grass a little bit coming up into Pirandello.
Did double check, and yes, this will be number 4, but it's also a hat trick. The first one at the second round at Barber. And then after that, he started rifling them off after another brief dry spell. Down at Sebring, he got himself a win. Over at Silverstone, he got his 3rd win of the season, back-to-back, and creeping forward on the very consistent Stephen Verity, who is still winless, despite leading the championship for a number of rounds now. But Greg Seitz, as he comes up behind Neil Alexander, is Neil going to give this one away? Doesn't necessarily want to do an extra lap here. Looks like he wants to stay out. So, as Greg Seitz comes to the line, it is victory number 4, and this one takes place in Italy for the 74 car.
A little bit of the victory swerve there for Greg, and well-deserved, as he will take that victory, jumping back to David Menino, able to challenge Greg early on in the race, but not able to do it down the stretch. David will come across the line to take a 2nd place, and here comes Greg's teammate and current championship leader, Stephen Verity.
Oof, this 3rd place, it might come back to haunt him. He's had a couple other before, but otherwise it's been mainly 2nd places that he's taken this season. Another podium, but the good news for him is that is 6 out of 7 rounds that he has finished on the podium. This is still a good battle. This is between Legault and Kita. Now that Takeshi has been released, Legault fighting to try and stay ahead of him. They come around Ravazza, and actually I think Legault overtook Kita, if I'm remembering correctly. So he must have gotten this within the last 2 laps, and poor Kita wasn't able to cling to all of the ones that he took today. As they run to the line, it's not enough. So Legault gets 8th, and Kita gets 9th.
Olivier able to finish back where he started despite that first lap bobble, and there you see the rest of the field running up to the line. That is Matthew Gunderson. He seemed like he was falling down the order quite a bit here today, but good battles with Matthew across the board. He's going to be happy with that result as a good racer.
As Alexander, the last one, comes across the line, that sends us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. welcome back to Imola. It was a race that Greg Seitz once again controlled from beginning to end. His pace in qualifying already looked pretty impressive. And then when he got to the race, everybody's jaws once again hit the floor as he scampered away from them all. David Menino kept it reasonable. He was back by about 6 seconds in the end. But I think the real test came between Seitz and his teammate, and Verity was half a minute behind when the checkered flag came out, telling you the sort of run that 74 was able to have today. Julio Palacio, a bit anonymous, but still should be happy with a fourth place, gathering valuable points. Owen McLaughlin with fifth was ahead of Michael Broomhead, going from 24th to 6th. Unbelievable. Jacob Exton was 7th, and Olivier Legault got back to where he started this race in 8th after an incident on lap 3. Takeshi Kita doing his traditional move forward from 15th to 9th, and Lucio Vargas wound up in 10th.
Michael Broomhead, or Matthew Gunderson rather, seemed to be involved in almost every action we were following here today. He was able to come home in 11th, followed by Adam Wright, who struggled quite a bit in Tamburello, but managed to bring the car home on the lead lap in 12th. 13th was Brett Accord, and 14th was Neil Alexander, the last car to finish on the lead lap. Behind him, Barry Cochran and Sean Duhamel were 15th and 16th. Brian Hotham, 17th. Aaron Roofs, 18th. Alex Guyon, 19th. And Nicholas Collender came home in 20th.
From 21st, it was David A. Bear 2 laps down, and Tyler Gore was 22nd, Brett Thurman 23rd. Then you've got your retirees for today: Peterson, Barnett, Nguyen, Bowden, Olson, and Edie. Our winner is ready to talk to us, Greg Seitz. 3 on the trot now. Stella got her groove back, sir.
Yeah, it's been good, but I'm doing everything I can to try to close up on Steven. I tried to collect every point I could, and I think I did during that race. So I'm happy. Can't do anything else but keep trying.
Yeah, I'm looking. It looks like a perfect race on incidents. So you got that bonus point, you got the fastest lap, and indeed, you got the pole position. So can't do much better than that. It appears that Steven was way off the pace compared to you, though, today, which was a bit surprising to me. Did you know that he would be that far behind?
Not really, but the temps of the track and the air temps are getting hot, and we actually had a little discussion before the race, deciding whether we should change our wings. We had a very low downforce set, and I saw the temps rising, and we kind of decided that it was probably a bad idea to actually make a big change like that that close to the start of the race. But it probably would have helped stay on track. But yeah, we ran with minimal downforce, and so with the track getting that hot, it got kind of sketchy. So yeah, I'm not terribly surprised, but he did the right thing for him, which was stay consistent, and once again got another podium for him.
Now, the one round that he didn't get a podium on was at an oval this season, and next race is going to an oval. But there have been rumors about a change in format for those. I wasn't sure if you've been reading up on that, if you were aware. But if so, what are your feelings heading off to USA next week?
I have no idea. I'm a rookie oval guy, so I don't even know what the format changes are. I mean, I know they're talking about heat, possibly doing heat races, but I'm not sure what that actually entails. So yeah, just a rookie there. So definitely not my strong suit. I think same goes for Steven. So we just try to get through those races, honestly, with as decent as a finish as we can get out of them.
Well, last time was a 4th place for you. That seems pretty decent to me, so we'll see how you fare. Congratulations, Greg, and hope to see you in a week.
Yeah, thanks again, Joe.
That was Greg Seitz, our winner, with David Menino. Up next, DJ talking to our 2nd place driver.
Well, David, it looks like you had enough pace to stick with Greg early on in the race, but then he just slipped away from you. Did you have anything for him out there today?
Yeah, I mean, I knew the only chance I'd have is sticking his slipstream and then kind of just hanging with him, which I was able to do for about 4 laps or so, but then I outbroke myself a little bit into turn 1, and then at that point he got about a little over a second gap on me, and at that point it was too tough to catch him. But yeah, I was pushing like hell the whole time.
I think, unless I'm crazy, that you did not take tires in the pits. It looked like Greg and some of the other guys did. Talk me through that logic.
Yeah, To be honest, I know it doesn't take too long to take tires here, but every race I've had so far, the tires don't feel that bad after the second stop. So just from what I've experienced, it never felt like it was super necessary.
Okay, and then one more question for you, I guess, on the technical side. We heard Greg a second ago talking about how they were running a low downforce setup. Were you running more of a mid-range, or talk about your setup prep coming into the race?
No, I was running low downforce as well, and definitely my car is a bit oversteery, which works out pretty well around here because you really need good turn in on some of these corners, so you don't, risk hitting any of the curbs that can really send your car flying. But I felt pretty good with the setup. Felt like I had a bit better pace, a bit closer to Greg than most races, so I'm pretty pleased with second.
Well, all right then, and I would say a second place is nothing to shake a stick at all, but anybody you'd like to thank on your way out tonight, David?
Yeah, I would like to thank you guys for broadcasting. I'd like to thank the SRT esports team.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on that second place. And now Joe Peak has caught up with our third place finisher, Stephen Verity.
Yeah, Stephen, it was another podium, 6 out of 7 now, but it was a very distant third compared to some of the rounds. So is it mixed feelings today?
It's, a little bit, yeah. I think ultimately it probably just, we didn't have the right setup. I think the track temperature is about 10 degrees higher than all the officials that we were running this week, and where you couldn't be running less wing. So Dave found some pace, and yeah, it was mostly just a matter of managing the race after that. I didn't want to push and make some catastrophic mistake. So it was mostly just trying to get to the end and keep it clean. So I'm happy to have done that.
Yeah, still collecting good points and some incredible stats, honestly. Season, this is just stunning consistency. But the one that you missed was at an oval, as I mentioned to Greg, and we've got USA next weekend. Are you going to do any special preparations to see if you can try and fix that and stay on the top 3?
I'll probably do a little bit more practice than I did for the last oval, but it's not. I don't particularly like the ovals, and they're not something that I race a lot. But yeah, I'll put some time in and try to get a better result than last time. I think that'll be the target. So if I finish in the top 20, I think that's okay. So.
That seems like a fair enough approach, especially considering both you and Greg say it's not really your bailiwick, but got very few rounds left, and of course got some interesting tracks coming up besides USA. Is there anything that you're looking especially forward to?
I think we have Spa and Road Atlanta left on the road side of things. Both tracks that I like, both tracks that I've spent a lot of time at. So I'm feeling a lot better about those than I was feeling about Imola, and definitely better than I'm feeling about USA next week.
That makes sense to me. Well, again, congratulations on another podium, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you in a week.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Al.
Stephen Verity of Rust Racing finishing third today. Finally, our highest AM finisher with a great run forward and a great qualifying. DJ Clark has caught up with Jacob Exton.
Yeah, Jacob, was a great qualifying run. You were able to stick your nose in there and really dice it up, and seemed like you were battling for most of that race.
Yeah, definitely. This series has been a real adjustment for me. For the most part, I run GTE cars and do a lot of endurance, so it's been a real challenge, but one I'm really starting to enjoy. Last couple of races, I think everyone's seeing them. I've had pace in qualifying all season, but finally starting to put it together.
Yeah, I would certainly say so. And we heard some of the drivers talking about, a bit of the track temperature and how it was a lot hotter than anything else. How are you faring with it?
We actually do okay. Our team leader, Mike, with Red Arrows, he always sets the practice to be a little warmer, especially so we can get comfortable with those low grip conditions. So we had kind of factored that in a wee bit, just in case. So, we can adjust our setup if it ends up being colder on the day. But today that worked in our favor a little bit.
I would certainly say it did. Now, I got to talk to you about looking at that AM championship a little bit more. Tyler's had to run a couple of bad races. You're starting to claw your way up there, it looks like. Do you think there's a chance to challenge it?
It's definitely an uphill battle. With how I've been driving the last 2 rounds, like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. And Tyler, you're done for, mate. But, like, quite honestly, with, like, what was it, 42 points before this race, it's going to be tough. I run a pub, so, like, that gets in the way of a lot of my practice. And I actually missed the race 2 weeks ago because of that. So that's going to be a little hard with the drop round and the bad luck I had at the start of the season. But, yeah, you bet your ass I'll be giving it my best to keep a fire under his ass and make him make some more mistakes.
Well, we'll be cheering you on for sure, Jacob. Congratulations again on that AM first place. And anybody you'd like to thank tonight?
Big thanks to Mike. He's been a big one in terms of building up my confidence, puts a huge amount of work into the setup. So the whole Red Arrows team and Global Motorsport owe you a thank you. But I also owe a story to Olivier. Tried to give him space tonight and gave him a little tap. We had a great race last time and I had a lot of fun battling with him. So he ended up being right on my ass and had a great comeback, but he deserves a lot of credit for that. And I owe him an apology. So.
Well, thank you again, Jacob, and congratulations on that AM victory.
That was Jacob Eggston, highest AM finisher and 7th place overall. That is certainly something to be proud of, considering the talent he was up against. But that brings us to the end of our broadcast with a big thank you to our sponsors, starting with the Simulation Motorsports Affinity folks. They are at SIMMSA.net if you want to check them out and get involved in the world of sim racing. Also, a longtime sponsor of the Thursday series, NinjaTrader, who can be found at simply NinjaTrader.com. And finally, for all your sim rig needs, there is Butt Kicker Products, and their website is at thebuttkicker.com. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. If you'd like to see more of hers, her Bandcamp is listed at the bottom. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com or check out our social media, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, the next race at USA Speedway is going to be a fascinating one. That'll be Thursday, February 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.